Fortnite is one of those games that constantly tests every part of your skill set, your mechanics, your game sense, your confidence, and your decision making, and even your emotional control. Flashy plays and wild aggressive pushes will always look cool, but consistently beating any opponent, whether they're a casual player or a top tier pro, comes down to something way deeper than just highlights. To outplay people in every single fight, you need a perfect blend of calculated aggression, smart timing, strong fundamentals, and a mindset built around adaptation. And today, I'm breaking down the 5 essential steps that allows you to do exactly that. These 5 pillars are the reason some players win fights without taking a single point of damage, while everyone else feels like they're stuck in a cycle of panic, wasted mats, and unpredictable outcomes. Once you learn how to weave these fundamentals together, you'll feel like you understand Fortnite at a completely different level. So let's hop right into it. Section 1. Control the opening phase. Every fight in Fortnite starts long before the first shot is even fired. Most players don't realize this, but the opening 3 seconds of fight determine almost everything. Who controls the pace, who gets the first tags, who gets the positional advantage, and who's already reacting instead of acting. The biggest difference between average players and top tier fighters is that better players always take control of the opening phase. They never walk into a fight blind, and they never start things from a losing position. They're already thinking about timing, space, and how they want the fight to flow before the enemy even notices them. The goal isn't just to take a fight, it's to take a fight on your own terms. This is where the leftover intro concepts come into play. Confidence, quick thinking, awareness, and the ability to read your opponent before the fight truly begins. Instead of pushing someone just because you see them, you push because you already understand how the fight is going to start. Maybe you catch them farming, maybe you tag them while they're moving in the open, or maybe you take the high ground angle before they even realize you're there. When you control the first moment of the fight, everything afterward becomes that much easier. Most players lose here without even realizing it. They walk into fights late, they hesitate, they rush in without visual info, or they play nervous instead of confident. The secret to winning fights consistently is to make the first choice, not the second choice. You should be deciding when the fight begins, where it begins, and from what angle you begin it. When you do that, you force the enemy to react, and reactive players almost always lose. Think about how often you die because you got surprised, or you weren't ready to build, or you weren't in a good spot to defend yourself. That's exactly why the opening phase matters so much. This applies to close range fights, boxed battles, mid-range engagements, off-spawn duels, literally every scenario in the game. When you master the opening phase, you won't just get the first tag more often. You'll start every fight from a position where you're already winning before the real fights even begin. That's the difference between fighting confidently and fighting desperately. One feels like you're in control of everything, the other feels like you're scrambling to survive. Now we go into section 2. Section 2. Dictate the flow of the fight. Once the fight actually starts, your entire goal is to maintain the initiative and keep the pressure shifting in your favor. Most fights don't come down to aim. They come down to total control. Every edit, every peek, every retake, and every movement you make should serve the purpose of controlling the rhythm of the fight. You want to feel like you're always one step ahead of your opponent, making the enemy react to you, not the other way around. This is where that calculated aggression from the intro becomes so important. Aggression without structure isn't just recklessness, and that's why so many people die trying to be aggressive, when really they're just sprinting at people with no plan. Real aggression is the ability to apply pressure while still protecting yourself, punishing enemy mistakes, and forcing them out of comfortable positions. It's not about doing the most, it's about doing the thing that pushes the fight forward in the right direction. This section is also where timing becomes everything. When you take walls, you don't swing mindlessly. You swing when they're weak, distracted, reloading, or healing. When you pressure, you don't just hold W. You use sound cues, reload timings, movement patterns, and edits to create windows of opportunities. When you disengage, you do it not because you're scared, but because you're resetting the pace to strike again. It's like you're conducting the entire fight, setting up the tempo, and making sure the enemy is always reacting half a second too late. Good players understand that fights are like conversations. You should be speaking the loudest. The moment you give the enemy too much space, too much silence, or too much respect, the flow slips out of your hands. They get comfortable, they get confident, they start making plays, and once they feel like the fight is theirs, the difficulty of that fight skyrockets. Winning fights consistently means never letting the opponent feel like they're in control. You can be patient, you can be slow, but you should always be the one dictating how the fight moves forward and what they do. When you master this, fights start feeling predictable, and it feels very unpredictable for your opponent. Everything your opponent does suddenly makes sense to you. Why they're editing here, why they're placing this wall, and why they're backing up, why they're swinging wide. You start reading them without even trying, because you're the one guiding the fight. And when you're in control, mistakes become easy to punish. That's how pros make opponents look clueless. It's not because the opponent is actually bad at the game, it's because they're being outpaced from the moment the fight begins. And this leads perfectly into section 3. Manage space and position like a pro. Every strong fighter in Fortnite has one ability that separates them from everyone else, regardless of what it is. They understand space better than their opponents. Controlling space isn't just about being close or far. It's about owning the area where their fight is happening. It's about creating zones of safety for yourself, zones of danger for your opponent, and constantly shifting these zones to force mistakes. Think of every fight like a mini-map inside your head. You're not just building randomly, you're shaping the battlefield. When you place walls, you're controlling space. When you cut off angles, you're controlling space. When you take height, you're controlling space. And when you push someone into a corner, you're also controlling that space. The entire game is built around the idea that the player with with the better position almost always wins. This is where the remaining intro concepts get used again: adaptation, awareness, and the ability to instantly understand your surroundings. You shouldn't just move, you should move with intention. Every tile, every elevation change, every angle should help you either pressure your opponent or protect yourself. And once you truly start mastering space, you start making fights feel unfair. It's like you're always in the right spot and they're always in the wrong one. Smart players never fight in areas that favor their opponent either. They avoid open, low-ground fights, they avoid unfamiliar buildings, they avoid late pushes where they can be pinched. Especially the Simpsons season, you don't want to be in a building with a lot of glass. Instead, they move enemies into awkward, uncomfortable positions while keeping themselves in dominant ones. It's like playing chess in real time. You're not trying to trade pieces, you're trying to control the entire board. And now that we're halfway through, this is the perfect moment for a quick message from today's sponsor, Risen's Tweaks. If you're tired of random stutters, frame drops, delay, or ping spikes ruining your fights, this is exactly what you need. Risen's Tweaks is built to make your system run cleaner, faster, and more responsive. A lot of you already know this, but Fortnite is insanely sensitive to performance issues. Even 10 extra milliseconds of delay can be the difference between winning and losing in a fight. What makes Risen's Tweaks so good is that it focuses on all the things you don't see, but definitely feel. Background latency, system responsiveness, Windows input lag, networking stability, and overall performance tuning. It's basically like unlocking the version of your PC that was hiding behind all the default settings, holding it back. And the best part, you can get 15% off by using code FLOW at checkout, or just click the link in the description. If you care about winning more fights, this is one of the easiest upgrades you can make. Alright, let's get back into the video. Section 4. Capitalize on mistakes and forced errors. The biggest misconception players have is thinking fights are won through aim, when in reality, fights are won through mistakes. Your mistakes or their mistakes. The best fighters in the game don't win because they're perfect. They win because they're better at spotting and punishing their errors. And here's the twist. The best players don't just wait for mistakes. They actually force them. Every time you pressure someone, you're not just weakening their builds, you're weakening their mental stability. When players panic, they edit too early, they triple swing walls, they full box themselves, they expose their feet, or they jump at the wrong time. All these tiny micro mistakes are opportunities for you to damage them. And if you're patient enough to read them, you'll start hitting some of the easiest shots of your life. But this also goes deeper into the emotional side of Fortnite. Something hinted at the intro: emotional control. The reason players crumble isn't because they're bad, it's because they're overwhelmed. When you force someone to panic, their decision making collapses. They stop thinking about safe edits, safe movement, or proper peeking. They stop tracking you, they stop resetting, they stop defending. They start playing from fear instead of intention, and fear is one of the best things to use against your opponent, and that's when the fight is already yours. The strongest fighters don't rush for no reason. They rush because they sense weakness. If someone is healing in panic, push. If someone misses an edit, push. If someone tunnels themselves into a corner, push. If someone places a wall too late, once again, push. Every mistake they make is a window that you can widen. That's how it feels when you watch pros. It's like they always know the exact second to attack, but that perfect timing is really just the ability to read human behavior. The more experience you gain, the more obvious these mistakes become, and suddenly the game starts feeling more simple. You're no longer guessing when to push. You're waiting for a mistake and punishing it instantly, which is exactly how you win fights against players who might have better mechanics, better aim, or better piece control. Outsmarting someone feels better than out-mechanicking them, because it means you're understanding the game on a deeper level than they are. That's what separates fighters who win by luck from fighters who win by intention. And this leads perfectly into the final fundamental and section 5. Section 5, finish fights with purpose. The last part of every fight is the closing phase, and this is where most players fail without understanding why. They either rush the final play too fast, or they hesitate too much, or they give the enemy too much space to reset. The truth is, the end of a fight should be the cleanest, most controlled moment, not the sloppiest. When you get someone low, cracked, or boxed, the fight isn't over. It's actually the most dangerous moment for you and them, because desperate players are unpredictable, and unpredictability is one of the scariest things. They'll swing edits randomly, they'll jump out of their box, they'll mantle into your face, they'll double edit with full confidence even while one shot. Ending a fight safely means understanding that the final blow has to be controlled and not rushed. This is where your awareness, timing, and discipline, all things hinted at the intro, fully come together. You shouldn't be overconfident, but you also shouldn't be scared. You should be intentional. If you have someone cracked, take away their options. Don't dive into their box blindly. Don't give them a 50-50, and don't play ego. Cut off their escape routes, remove their layers, move them into predictable movement patterns, and make their final decision for them. And once you have the final shot lined up, take it with a purpose. Don't flick randomly, don't hope, don't guess. Either get an angle where you cannot lose the trade, or wait for the guaranteed moment. The final shot should feel like the conclusion of a fight you're always going to win, not a lucky scramble. And strong players don't just win fights, they finish fights with clarity. And when you finish fights cleanly, your confidence skyrockets, your timing improves, your game sense sharpens, and your entire gameplay rises. You begin to treat every fight like a sequence instead of a panic montage. And if you apply these 5 fundamentals, controlling the opening phase, dictating the flow, managing space, punishing mistakes, and finishing fights with purpose, you're going to start winning fights in a way that that feels effortless. You won't just be playing Fortnite, you'll be understanding Fortnite, and when that happens, the game becomes way more fun, way more predictable, and way easier to dominate. If this video helps you, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment your role in Fortnite, and use code FLOWN in the Fortnite item shop. And if you want to improve even faster, join my free Flow Improvement Discord linked down below. You'll get drop maps, resources, coaches, teammates, and everything you need to level up your gameplay, as well as go check out Risen's tweaks. And I love you all. You guys have a great rest of your guys' day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, guys.